Hey guys, the last time we read chapter 5, and you should have already completed all the work for Among the Hidden chapters 1 through 5. You should have already filled in all of the work on the PowerPoint slides, completed the Quizlets, and the quiz for chapters 1 through 5. Now we're moving into the second part of this, which is chapter 6 through 10. I'm sorry I'm a little stuffy this morning. So the last time that you guys read, Dad received a letter in the mail about how the hogs were essentially, making the area kind of stinky for the new houses that are being built, and that Dad is being ordered by the government to get rid of the hogs. So he's got to sell the hogs and just do away with them. All right, chapter 6. The tax bill arrived 2 weeks later, the day that Dad, Matthew, and Mark loaded the hogs onto the livestock trailer and took them all away. Most were going to the slaughterhouse. The ones too young and too small to bring a decent price were going to an auction for feeder pigs. Luke watched through the vent at the front of the house as Dad drove by in the better pickup with each load. Matthew and Mark sat in the back of the pickup, making sure the trailer stayed hitched right. Even 3 stories up, Luke could see Matthew's hang-dog expression. Then when the 3 of them came into the house for dinner after washing the last of the hog smell off their hands in the mudroom, Dad handed Mother the tax bill without comment. She put down the wooden spoon she'd been using to stir the stew and unfolded the letter. Then she dropped it. "What's this?" She seemed to be doing the math in her head as she bent to retrieve it. "That's 3 times what it usually is. There must be a mistake." Dad shook his head grimly. "No mistake. I talked to Williker at the auction. The Willikers were their nearest neighbors with a house 3 miles down the road. Luke always pictured them with monster scales and fierce claws because of the number of times he'd been cautioned. You don't want the Willikers to see you," Dad went on. "Williker said they raised everyone's taxes because them fancy houses makes our land worth more." "Isn't that good?" Luke said eagerly. It was strange. He should hate the new houses for replacing his woods and forcing him to stay indoors. But he'd have fallen in love with them, having watched every foundation poured, every wooden skeleton of walls and roofs raised to the sky. They were his main entertainment, aside from talking to Mother when she came upstairs for what she called my Luke breaks. Sometimes she pretended his room needed cleaning as badly as the bread needed baking or the garden needed weeding. Sometimes she just sat and talked. Dad was shaking his head in disgust over Luke's question. "No, it's only good if we're selling," and we ate. "All it means for us is that the government thinks they can get more money out of us." Matthew was slumped in his chair at the table. "How are we going to pay?" he asked. "That's more than we got for all the hogs. And that was supposed to carry us through for a long time." Dad didn't answer. Even Mark, who normally had a smart alecky comeback for everything, was stupefied. Mother had turned back to her stew. "I got my work permit today," she said softly. "The factory's hiring. If I get on there, I can maybe get an advance on my paycheck." Luke's jaw dropped. "You can't go to work," he said. "Who will?" He wanted to say, "Who will stay with me? Who will I talk to all day when everyone else is outside?" But that seemed too selfish. Luke looked around. No one else looked surprised by Mother's news. He shut his mouth. Guys, during this this future possible, world, this dystopia, people can't just go get a job. You have to get a permit. You have to have permission to get a job. And Mother's never worked before because she's always stayed home with the babies. And then when Luke came, she kind of didn't want to leave at all. But now Luke's kind of old enough and she can leave him for extended periods of time. And now she can go work at a factory. In actuality, there's a chicken factory that Luke's mom can work at. I do want to say this, though, that before we get into it, the government expects people to be vegetarians, and we will talk more about how the government expects people to be vegetarians later on into the book. But keep that in mind right now, that the government wants people to not eat meat, to eat just fruits and veggies and grains. things that are grown from the ground. So make sure that you guys are completing your work, especially your vocabulary for this part of the book, because you can go ahead and start working on vocabulary for chapters 6 through 10. And I will be reading chapters 7 later on today. Bye, guys.